I want to remind you of one of the greatest speeches in American history that Ronald Reagan gave on October 27, 1964, to pull all this together about what a great country we are, about how we are the beacon of liberty, about how we are really the most beneficent yet powerful nation ever to exist, how there is an enemy within, and the enemy within is growing because the enemy without is funding the enemy within and populating the enemy within, and they are fusing and joining and colluding with homegrown Marxists and people of that ilk. You know, throughout the last quarter century or more, we've had our guard down. There are different types of enemies, some of the same old enemies, but the idea that Qatar is an ally is just totally wrong, totally wrong. I want to remind you of one of the greatest speeches in American history that Ronald Reagan gave on October 27, 1964, to pull all this together about what a great country we are, about how we are the beacon of liberty, about how we are really the most beneficent yet powerful nation ever to exist, how there is an enemy within, and the enemy within is growing because the enemy without is funding the enemy within and populating the enemy within, and they are fusing and joining and colluding with homegrown Marxists and people of that ilk. But I want to remind you of what Ronald Reagan said 61 years ago in his famous speech, Rendezvous with Destiny. And he gave this speech in support of the Barry Goldwater presidential candidacy, which was considered by many to be over by then, because the same media trashed the hell out of him, twisted what he had to say. The Democrat Party, with its illegal bugs in his campaign office, and so forth and so on. The same Democrat Party, same media then as it is today. But let's take a brief listen. Go.
Now let's set the record straight. There's no argument over the choice between peace and war, but there's only one guaranteed way you can have peace, and you can have it in the next second. Surrender. Admittedly, there's a risk in any course we follow other than this, but every lesson of history tells us that the greater risk lies in appeasement, and this is the specter our well-meaning liberal friends refuse to face, that their policy of accommodation is appeasement, and it gives no choice between peace and war, only between fight or surrender. If we continue to accommodate, continue to back and retreat, eventually we have to face the final demand, the ultimatum. And what then? Well, Nikita Khrushchev has told his people he knows what our answer will be. He has told them that we're retreating under the pressure of the Cold War, and someday, when the time comes to deliver the final ultimatum, our surrender will be voluntary, because by that time, we will have been weakened from within spiritually, morally, and economically. He believes this because from our side he's heard voices pleading for peace at any price, or better read than dead, or as one commentator put it, he'd rather live on his knees than die on his feet. And therein lies the road to war, because those voices don't speak for the rest of us. You and I know and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery. If nothing in life is worth dying for, when did this begin? Just in the face of this enemy? Or should Moses have told the children of Israel to live in slavery under the Pharaohs? Should Christ have refused the cross? Should the patriots at Concord Bridge have thrown down their guns and refused to fire the shot heard round the world? The martyrs of history were not fools. And our honored dead, who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis, didn't die in vain. Where then is the road to peace? Well, it's a simple answer after all. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay. There is a point beyond which they must not advance. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
It's quite inspiring, isn't it, America? As Reagan was, and that's the truth.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.